In 2161, the overseer of Vault 13 would send out the protagonist of the first Fallout game to look for a water chip to save the vault. Everyone who has played any of the Fallout games that take place on the West Coast is similar with this fact. But what if I told you there were Vault Dwellers with the same mission before the famous Vault Dweller? These are the Vault Dwellers that attempted and failed in the same mission that Fallout has us undertake. The hardest to miss out of all of these dwellers is Ed, right outside the entrance of the vault. Ed is dead. Ed's corpse is used to establish several facts right at the start of the game. 1. The Overseer has sent out others to look for the chip and he didn't tell us. 2. The wasteland is dangerous enough to kill a prepared traveler. We never find out anything about Ed and can't ask any of our fellow Vault Dwellers about him. Perhaps the fact that our character knows his name means that they knew him before he ventured out to the wasteland. It's a little silly to think that Ed died fighting rats immediately upon exiting the vault, though it's not completely impossible. He might have made it past the rats and ventured out into the wastes before returning, either after running out of resources or after finding out that Vault 15 is empty. But the stubborn Overseer didn't let poor Ed back into the vault, and he died from exposure. It's important to mention that the Fallout Bible, quoting Chris Taylor, explains that Ed was sent out before the water chip malfunction, citing his severe decomposition as proof. If that's true, then the generic Vault Dweller corpse in the Mariposa military base, which also uses the same texture, must have been a Vault Dweller sent out for non-water chip related reasons as well, and died in the super mutant's captivity. Fallout 2 also reuses this asset, but to be fair, it becomes harder to assume that these Vault Dwellers were sent out before Fallout's plot, because they're much farther away from both Vault 13 and 15, and also, they could very well be dwellers from Vault 13 who wanted to follow the banished Vault Dweller to his village in the mountains, and died during the way. The corpses are located behind the Brotherhood bunker in the Den, buried under rubble in the Great Wanamingo mine in Redding, and in the cargo hold of the PMV Valdez in San Francisco respectively. All dangerous areas, and if we accept my theory, then it wasn't that they necessarily went in the wrong direction, since we know that Vault 8 had hundreds of water chips, but that they simply met terrible fates during their journey. The Fallout Bible tries to claim that these people were from Vault City or possibly the Enclave, since they also wear vault suits. But then why do they have the number 13 on their back? I understand that it could be as simple as an oversight, but if it's in the game, I'd like to make the most sense of it as possible. I would also like to mention a legless female corpse that appears in the Broken Hills caves, and to my knowledge nowhere else. However, in her case it's much more likely that she was originally from Vault City or the Enclave, and that she settled down in Broken Hills. For the last and least well known about Vault 13 Dweller, we have to go back to the LA Boneyard in Fallout 1. The library of the Followers of the Apocalypse is home to a ghoulish person who identifies himself as Talius. From his dialogue, we learn that he was sent out a long time ago by the Overseer, that there were others, and that he searched for years until he finally came across Necropolis. Talius actually teamed up with Set, the leader of the ghouls at Necropolis, to fight the super mutants, and took out most of the garrison before being captured.
It is the children of the cathedral who transformed me from my original state of being in Necropolis,
he says. But before his transformation could be completed, he was rescued by the Followers of the Apocalypse. He was tended to by their doctors, given mentats to help his reduced intelligence, and was allowed to stay in their library. Going back to the topic of Ed, given that a few years should be more than enough for a corpse in a rodent-infested cave in California to skeletonize, we can safely assume that the vault's water chip has been broken for years, and that both Ed and the Vault Dweller who died in the Mariposa military base were sent out on the same mission as Talius and the protagonist. On the question of whether Ed or Talius were sent out first, Chris Avalone suggests that Ed left before Talius in the Fallout Bible. Due to his predicament, Talius has a dislike of the Overseer, and if asked about the vault, he says that he wants to see it open. He doesn't seem to be concerned with the protagonist finding the water chip. But if asked about the lieutenant, the super mutant responsible for Talius' mutation, he will give us a flamethrower and fuel to avenge him and stop the mutant threat. So that's the story of all the other Vault 13 dwellers who dared venture out into the wastes before the events of Fallout. If you disagree with my theories or have anything to add, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want more Fallout content, and until then, goodbye.